some people who seem to have it all. Some people get the degrees, they get the jobs, they get the husbands or wives, they get the children, they get the dogs, they get the podcasts, they get the book deals, they get absolutely everything done. And then the rest of us who getting up in the morning is a struggle or a trial. So, how does one create this mindset where you can use your high achiever mind and actually do something with it? Because a lot of us are thinking that if only somebody could help me, or if only there was a path or a method to help me fulfill my full it's gone now. To my to fulfill my full potential. We will edit that out. Don't worry. So to fulfill my full potential. Well, Christiane Schroeter is going to be talking to us a little bit today, and this is somebody who's pretty much done it all. She's from Germany, studied in the US, has got a #1 podcast in the US, has written books, is a lecturer, has a family, and to my knowledge hasn't burnt out yet. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But what we're particularly going to focus on today is, as a high achiever, and you know you're a high achiever, why are you not being successful? What are the roadblocks, and what are some of the tools and techniques that one can use to reach your full potential? So, Dr. Christiana, lovely to see you.
Amazing to be here. And of course, welcome to everybody that feels they are a high achiever with lots of potential. I definitely know how you're feeling. So this is going to be a great episode. Welcome.
So let's talk about that a little bit. I know quite a few people who've worked at Google and have worked at other large organizations, which is filled with other high achievers. And I think potentially in the US, there is a particular problem with this as well, is the schooling system, the education system, the work environment is really focused on rewarding high achievers. But there's only so much space at the top. And there's another example of this where I had a wonderful interview with a concert pianist. And a lot of the music schools around the world are turning out wonderful pianists, potential concert pianists every year. But out of 100, perhaps one or two ever get to play in front of a symphony orchestra. So that's a challenge that I think a lot of people have, is that they've got all of this potential and it's unmet. So maybe let's talk about unmet realization of your goals and how to deal with it as a high achiever, because this can't just be one or two people. This is a lot of people.
Oh, I love this. And that comparison to the concert pianist is actually quite brilliant. So I'm going to add my own comparison to this as well. So a couple of weeks ago, on the 16th of August, I spoke on the TEDx stage. And if you don't know what TEDx is, it's a very competitive process to speak on a stage by an organization about an idea that's worth sharing. So you don't have to be necessarily famous or have even a name that's accomplished, but you have to apply, and it's thousands of people that apply to speak on that particular stage. So there were people with me at that event that had applied to hundreds of events before they were accepted. And when they asked me, I said, this is my second application that was accepted. The first one was turned down. And that's completely not normal. But at the same time, it doesn't really matter whether you apply to hundreds of events or whether that's your second application. Because the way that frequently it works is that these events are put together a little bit like an art show. So they're curating pieces that kind of work together, and they're looking at them as if you were to work through a gallery where everything is kind of matching. So you can't think, well, my talk is not good, or maybe I should just give up on this dream. It's more that you haven't found the art gallery that needs your particular piece of art. Just like that concert pianist haven't found the stage yet where he or she is going to perform. I think that we frequently think that we just need to do it at this event, where in reality, it's maybe just not the best match to highlight who you are. It's not the best gallery to show you and your art and your creation off. And I think that it's just a mindset that we have. And I would like to encourage you to not think of it as a mindset, but rather shifting your mind away from not being perfect, but just thinking that a no just stands for next opportunity. There's just something else out there that you haven't quite found yet. And you just need to keep plugging away. And then it's going to be the perfect piece, just curated with all these other people. And it's going to be the moment. Yes.
Well, it always reminds me of that story of the person who sold his business 6 up. And he had 1 up, 2 up, 3 up. None of them worked, and he sold it at 6 up, and I thought, this is not going to happen. And the next, the next person just took it up a number 7 up, and the business was a great success. But you talk about this psychological shift. I think one of the tough things about being a high achiever and not getting these quick wins, because we're told that if you do these steps and you follow this path, this is going to be the ultimate trajectory for you. How do you deal with disappointment when people have done everything correctly, but still have not achieved what they think or how they framed it success looks like?
Oh yeah. I mean, and I mean, no, that sounds ridiculous, but even when my first application was rejected, I was really disappointed because I put a lot of work into that application. So when you apply to be a TEDx speaker, you have to submit a video. And to make my video really good, because I am a high achiever, of course, I memorized the whole script. Didn't just record it once, but multiple times, making sure that it's a really strong video so that they can visualize me on the stage and how it would be. So then I was kind of disappointed, and I was thinking, well, maybe, like I need to change my talk or this or that. And this is the wrong thinking. Don't think that just because it was rejected, you have to start over again, because you already probably have something. So you always start seeking yourself for the mistakes and the flaws, where in reality, I don't think that talk was a good fit for that particular event. And it's hard because to keep going, you start questioning yourself, and you even wonder, like, is this like driving to insanity, to where I keep repeating the same thing and it's just getting rejected. I think that's really sometimes where the learning happens, in the fact that you keep up and you keep going. And even though it's disappointing, when you think about the journey that led you there, it's all these amazing little moments where it felt like you were really struggling, but you were kept going, where you were really succeeding more than others who didn't keep going, and you were thinking like, you know what, I'm just going to do something else. And I mean, keep in mind, a TEDx talk is very competitive, so maybe that's just not my jam. I think that's really where the magic is, that the grit and the resilience comes from getting up and keeping on going.
Let's keep with the TEDx example, because I think it's a good way to help us understand what success looks like, because TEDx is the top of the tree, basically. So once you've done a TEDx presentation, that is almost the pinnacle of public speaking, unless you're on a top podcast or on CNN or something like that. Somebody who's a high achiever who thinks that TEDx should be their first presentation, or for the first place that they go and present, and then don't get accepted, is that necessarily a bad thing? Is TEDx the first time you've ever presented, or did you do hundreds or perhaps thousands of smaller events that built up to your TEDx presentation?
Thousands of others. In fact, so this is a beautiful story. Whenever there's Thanksgiving in the United States, Thanksgiving is the feast of gratitude. We go around and we share something we're grateful for. And I think it was in 2023 that we kind of shared what we're grateful for. And that was the pandemic year. And I said, I'm really grateful that I made the transition to teaching online, and that students are still so engaged and that they follow me. And by the way, I did the math and I figured out that by now I've taught 10,000 students. And then, I'm really grateful for the opportunity on not only teaching in the classroom as a professor at the university, but also teaching online and getting that expertise, which really was not flawless at all. I mean, it was absolutely different from seeing somebody in the classroom to being online. So in that moment, I said, I would like to, because I know now teaching online how important it is for me to teach in person. I would like to reach bigger masses because now I know what technology can do. And I actually want to do it in person on a big stage, giving a big talk. And so everybody was like, oh, that's an interesting learning experience. And I said, yeah, I learned this during the pandemic that I actually really love human interaction. And I would love to share my message on a big screen, big stage. And that's when I made that decision. So that was 2023. And here we are, much later. So then I put everything in place. I started writing books. I launched my podcast. I basically told people that I want to do this. And I think by telling them, I started believing it more and more. So it was definitely not like I woke up and I said, let's just do this. And I recorded this video. It was really from speaking so much, interacting through the years in the classroom, that I became confident that that is ultimately really what I'm ready for. And I felt ready too. I think that's you have to feel ready. If you're constantly questioning why you're doing this and you really just want to do it for the career boost, it's most likely the wrong motivation.
Mm. We look at people who are successful, Elon Musk, Johann Sebastian Bach, Mozart, writers, all of these folks who are just at the pinnacle, and we have got they are sort of giants in the world. And obviously high achievers want to leave typically high achievers would like to leave some kind of a legacy. But once you've gotten to a certain stage, say you've done a TED talk, how do you motivate yourself to keep going? Is it to do another TED talk? Is it to do another level, a higher level, a better level, write a book like you mentioned? How do high performing people keep themselves motivated? Because there's not always somebody behind them saying, you should do this, perhaps do this, and wake up in the morning, you need to do 5 hours of this, 2 hours of this, and you need to organize yourself. Talk to me about perhaps some of your techniques that you've used to keep yourself motivated and set yourself ever higher goals.
I think it comes back to that gratitude element, because I'm really grateful I reached that stage. The question that I got all along was, so how did you do this? What were some of the tricks? And I have to already tell you, and the audience too, I did not prepare the way that many people prepare just by talking to the other people that were there, the other speakers. I used rather innovative, creative ideas of getting myself ready, which is why, answering your question, I'm going to write a book about it, because I essentially created my own training plan, right, if you want to call it this way, to get ready for that. And I have to say, it was really successful. I memorized my talk. I gave my talk. In fact, when we all spoke, the speakers, they said, Christiane, you're going to be the first speaker. You're going to be the one that will open the show, because we know you're going to be really strong. And I knew that that was a huge honor, but that also showed that my training plan was successful. And I think that was my first thought when I got ready. And just the week before, I already started sharing with others. Don't worry, I'm going to share with you in the book. After the TEDx talk is done, I'm going to share with you of how you get ready. So if you are a high achiever, the best thing to do when you have something like this is to think, all right, so how can I use my knowledge and help others? How can I become the teacher? Because I was the student, I taught myself how to get ready, or I had others help me get ready. But now I want to reach back and help others. And it's also a great thing for yourself to kind of write it down because it's a really big moment. So it's nearly like writing in a diary and then maybe looking back and remembering how that experience was and how it shaped your life. And so I definitely want to help others and coach them how to get ready. And I think that a lot of high achievers thankfully do that too, to where they don't just think their skill is unique to themselves, but they rather help others and maybe accomplish that same skill or their skill. I think that's really what we are here in this world, right? Helping others and becoming great versions of themselves as well.
Well, you touched on an interesting point there. I did mention Mozart and Bach earlier, and even though
Yeah.
they created the most beautiful music in the world, they were also
Mhm.
teachers, and they wrote books both for their children and for students, and they did a lot of training and a lot of teaching and gave away all of their secrets. And the great thing about being a high achiever or being on that next level is that you can give all your secrets away. The chances of somebody being able to replicate or do exactly the same as you is very slight. So
Yeah.
again, I'd encourage people to the knowledge that you've got, share it because once you've done it, it's already out there in the world. So there's nothing particularly unique to that. It's also not just about being very clever because you're obviously very clever. You've got a PhD, you speak multiple languages, but it's hard work as well. And I think this is something that some high achievers perhaps rest on their laurels, where they think, well, I'm so smart. I've just aced all these tests. I study really well. I do well. Now things are going to come to me. Is that how
Mhm.
it works?
Oh, absolutely not. In fact, I think the only reason um, when we went through the PhD program, the only reason why my cohort made it through is because I think we were the most resilient. We had the most grit. I think that some of the smart people actually gave up. They were like, "This is absolutely insane." And we just kind of made it through because for me it was a huge honor. I had earned a Fulbright scholarship to study in the United States. And it wasn't just I would call the company and say, "You know what? William Fulbright, thank you so much. It's not for me. You should have sent somebody else." That's just not who I am. I'm not a person that gives up like that. And so I thought, nope, I'm going to do this. And here I am. And there were many moments where I kind of scratched my head. It's like, I really don't know. I'm listening to a high level economics class in a foreign language. This is absolutely insane because it's not like you're listening to an English class. You're listening to formulas and mathematical equations in a foreign language. And it's not like you just find this in a dictionary.
Yeah.
Frequently, I thought, wow, this is so crazy. I just have to laugh about this. And I think we tend to be so serious with ourselves. Um, there were definitely moments where I think the smart people said, hasta luego or whatever language they used. Not for me. I'm out of here. Yeah.
Yeah, so that hard work definitely is an important component. But now I want to put in a little bit of a little bit of a curveball, and it touches
Yep.
on the piano, the concert pianist example I gave. Uh, Not everyone is going to be successful. There's a very low percentage of most people reaching the highest goals, being a concert pianist, being a conductor.
Mm.
Those are booked out for years and years and years in advance. So the playing field actually becomes smaller and smaller the better you get. How should somebody change their mindset if they've aimed at those particular high goals that are only achieved by very small amounts of people and adjust their psychology or adjust their mindset to be happy doing something else?
Oh, this is such a great question, really. Because think about qualities of a really good speaker or teacher, as you talked about. And it doesn't even matter whether they are standing on a stage. It could be TEDx, it could be a keynote talk, right? Or they could be giving a business talk, or they are standing in a classroom teaching elementary students in a small rural community in Norway, right? I think when you are really good at what you do, it really just matters the waves and the ripple effect that you create. It doesn't matter really whether that's, at some high level keynote or at the school, because you're changing lives. And I think that that's really the bigger goal you have to keep in mind. When I was a professor, I always kept in mind that the students will walk away and hopefully remember something from my class. Now, I have to be honest with you. Frequently, they remember the stories I share with them more than the material. But you know what? It doesn't matter. They still remember me and they laugh about some things that I told them about, my bike or my children or something funny I did on the weekend. The fact that I bring them chocolate chip cookies that take me a whole weekend to put together because I make them from scratch, all that is legacy. So that is, I think, what matters much more, because these people will remember you and you might actually change their lives. The TEDx audience, you might not be able to connect with everybody that's there. You might not even be able to see all of them. So to you, I think it's people. It's just people. That's really what it's all about: connecting, building community, and creating ripple effects.
I love that ripple effect idea because I'm a teacher as well. So I lecture in marketing. And every year there are some poor, unfortunate students who are going to have the customer journey stuck in their head because of stories that I've told. So and hopefully be better marketers. So that's fantastic. Now,
Love it.
let's talk a little bit about your work, because not only do you bake chocolate chip cookies and have a podcast, but you've got your petite practice method. So this is something that shows how small actions can create momentum. Maybe talk to me through this process, and who is this specifically aimed at, and who would get most value for this process?
Yeah, and I love that you brought the chocolate chip cookies up, because it's a small moment. So a petite is French for small, and a practice is an action that you're taking. Ideally, each petite practice is done consistently, and the consistency builds momentum, and the momentum builds action, and the action really fuels also your resilience and keep going on those days when you feel, I just have time for just a little thing, and that's your petite practice right there. Now you need to decide what your own goal is, whether that's wellness or your business or just finishing a homework assignment. Everything can be broken down into multiple steps. And the petite practice then are the steps that will lead you to this. Now you brought up the chocolate chip cookies, and I'm just going to pick up on this again because it is in essence just a petite practice there. I could bring them, you know, lunch or dinner or a whole pizza or something like that, right? But the fact that I bring them, each gets their own little cookie, right? It's kind of a very spiritual thing because I also show them pictures that I make them from scratch and my kids help me. In fact, one of my most downloaded videos on Instagram, 800, more than 800,000 views, is me loading the cookies onto a tray. It's special because it's small and it shows that I care, and I'm kind of chipping away at the goal and building connection with them. I made something that's special to me, and I show them that I care about them much more than teaching marketing, innovation, entrepreneurship. So a petite practice is something that is just that. It's that moment when you feel like a spark of joy because you're chipping away at something much bigger.
And who is going to get most value out of this process?
Well, I think the students are pretty happy. We make it a really big deal, right? We look at the calendar in class, we set the date, the cookie day, right? And then we look forward to it. Oh my gosh, next week is cookie day. It's like really in marketing, we like hype it up. I think it's probably mutual. Yeah. I look forward to making them. They look forward to getting them. when I bring the plate in typical marketing fashion, I don't just like hand them out. I open them and wave around first so that they get the smells.
Real estate 101. Yeah.
Yeah. Then, of course, before making them, this is very important. I also ask about dietary restrictions and anything that goes into that. And I make it very normal because I want to feel it's a community. We're all including everybody. So now, of course, I don't just make chocolate chip cookies, right? Petite practices are also, I could use this as a teaching moment, right? I could say, all right, so there's this cookie shop down the road. And guess what? Their cookies maybe aren't even that special. But the reason why they are so successful is because they use this whole scarcity to where whatever they have by 3 o'clock, they are sold out and they have the scent going around in the mall. And, that's something that frequently leads into a discussion about something else. And I think that deep down, really, the students know in that moment that I could have just run to the store and bought some, but I didn't, right? And I think that's tremendous. It's just like writing a thank you card or calling a person or sending a quick text. In life, if you want to succeed, and you brought this up earlier, the high achievers are the ones that are the high connectors. They're really plugged in. They really listen. They know how to understand somebody. They're good communicators. So if you feel like you're stuck, you just have to maybe plug in a little bit more with your community. And it might start with making chocolate chip cookies, right?
Exactly. And I think that community building is it's a trait that all of these very successful people have. If people want to learn a little bit more about you, your marvelous books and your podcast and your services, where can I send them?
Go to my website, drchristiane.com. And that's where you can find my now 3 books that are behind me also. As I mentioned earlier, because I'm working on my TEDx book and I'm very patiently waiting on the video to be released, TEDx video. I currently have actually 2 call outs on my website. One of them is a Discover Your Superpower quiz that you can take for free to learn more about yourself. And the other one is if you want to be among the first to get a glimpse at my books or just to get the TEDx video, you can also sign up on my website for that. And of course, the glimpse of the book means I'm sending you a little teaser about how far I am along in my petite practice method in writing those amazing new books.
Excellent. Well, I hope there's also going to be a chocolate chip recipe on the website at some stage.
There is actually already
Oh,
right now.
wonderful.
Check out my
Oh,
blog.
fantastic.
My blog has recipes, and one of them is the recipe for that.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad I brought it up. Dr. Christiane, thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to seeing that book.
Thank you.